السادة الحضور، عين رئيساً لمجلس المياه العالمي من 2005 حتى 2012 وأعيد انتخابه في 2018. ساهم بشكل مباشر في تنظيم منتديات المياه العالمية، وهو عضو في العديد من المنظمات الدولية وغير الحكومية، وفي فريق الخبراء والقادة رفيع المستوى بشأن المياه والكوارث. الكلمة المسجلة الآن لمعالي السيد لوي فوشون رئيس مجلس المياه العالمي.
Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Dr. Mostafa Madbouli, Your Excellency, Mr. of Water Resources and Irrigation, dear Mohamed Abdelati, dear friend, Her Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, Ministers and Ambassadors, dear friends of water. It's always a great honor to participate in the opening of the Cairo Water Week. It's an honor for the World Water Council as well as for myself. Our relations are long-lasting and friendly. The government of Egypt is one of the founders of our council, and Dr. Abu Zaid was its first president. I regret today that I am unable to be physically with you. I would have greeted each of you and expressed my respect and consideration. Egypt is a great water nation. It's due to its history as much as to its geography. It's Egypt's history and geography which have shaped the presence or absence of water and its multiple uses. The Nile is the archetype, the best known example of a nourishing artery, the living blood, as well as a representative of civilization inspired by water and aquatic culture. Today, Egypt is considered as water expert country, thanks to the knowledge of its engineers, technicians, and managers. This is why the Cairo Water Week has become one of the most famous events on the international agenda. This year, you have highlighted the subject of water security in arid regions. This is a wise choice. First of all, because it probably concerns nearly 2 billion people living mainly at the crossroads of Africa, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pakistani subcontinent. Secondly, because water resources which are scarce must be increased in the future to cope with combined effects of climate evolution and population growth. Aridity is a concept as old as the Egyptian civilization. Arid, Darfek Allah in Arabic, is a word that comes from the Latin words archeo and aridus, which all express drought as a land that lacks humidity and precipitation. Yes, this word tells us that in geography, but also in time, the earth is thirsty. And if the earth is thirsty, both man and nature suffer. This is at the heart of our individual and collective responsibilities, ensuring water security. According to a common definition, this means safeguarding sustainable access to adequate quantities and quality of water for socio-economic development and for ensuring protection against waterborne pollution and water-related disasters. There are two major aspects to water security, whether it's water for man, for nature, whether it's water for today or water for tomorrow. The first aspect is obviously to increase their raw water resources. Traditionally, water is captured in wells, boreholes, lakes, and rivers, but century after century, this has not been enough. Man has learned to dig deeper into the core of the earth. Man has been capable to transport and transfer water from one region to another and to store it behind increasingly large dams. And in our time, these efforts have not been enough. The climate, but also population growth, has made other solutions necessary, and the genius of man has contributed to this. Egypt is a perfect example. It lived through the wrath of the Nile, but saw its population triple in a century. And if the earth is thirsty, populations are thirsty, and water is lacking for its various uses, for agriculture, for industry, for domestic use. Egyptian engineers are famous throughout the world, and today they are developing some of the most advanced techniques, desalination of seawater, and like recently in Arid, and wastewater reuse. In the very near future, this is where we will draw the additional water resources that the world is needing. And this is true for every continent, every country, to quench the thirst of megacities and overpopulated territories or touristic regions. Desalination, since the use of reverse osmosis, is a widespread and less expensive technique. It will develop especially along deep coasts, where the excess salt will dissipate without threatening the ocean fauna and flora. Desalination is also a solution in the middle of desert lands where aquifers and fossil underground have been salinated for 1,000 years. But the future of water resources will be transformed by new techniques like wastewater reuse. This is a major source of fresh water that humanity so badly needs in the coming decades. And if these additional resources are attractive, it's because they are renewable. This is why for their development we have the duty to imagine step by step the use of energies that are also totally renewable: hydraulic, solar, wind, tidal, and others. We know, and we are pleased to note, that the Egyptian government, under the leadership of President Sisi, is at the forefront of this specific struggle and is fighting the world water community with its advanced expertise and innovation. But as I said, increasing water resources is only one aspect of water security. The second aspect is that it's imperative to save these resources by reducing all our forms of consumption. This mainly involves two things. The first is to manage all the stages of the water cycle more efficiently every day, collecting, transferring, treating, distributing, purifying, by avoiding waste but also pollution that poisons people as well as crops and livestock. The second is to bring about a major change in our behavior, to sustainably reduce our consumption, both agricultural and domestic. The comprehensive program launched by Egypt in recent years is an example for the world. Farmers, school children, students, employers in fields, schools, university, administrations, companies, homes, everybody is concerned, everywhere, at every moment. We must raise water saving as a virtual and a civic obligation. This is all technological innovation on the one hand and change in our behavior of habits on the other hand will gradually ensure the control of water availability. This is why Egypt's efforts are helping to show the way to respecting natural resources while at the same time satisfying development needs. These programs, if they are sustainable, must also be equitable. Equity for every individual means the need to promulgate the right to water both institutionally by writing it in the Constitution and in practice by allocating a minimum amount of drinking water to every person. Equity also means sharing water within a river basin, including between nations. And in this respect, we are closely following the efforts to put an end the current tensions arising from the construction of Renaissance Dam. Dialogue and realism must prevail if equity is to be the rule and sharing is an obligation in accordance with international law. On behalf of the 400 member organizations of the World Water Council, I reiterate our ability to help bring the parties closer together and establish the rules of an agreement acceptable to all. This availability is the essential characteristic of the hydro diplomacy that our Council has developed since its creation 25 years ago. Exchange and dialogue is at the heart of the raison d'être of the World Water Forums that our Council organizes every 3 years. I would like to thank Egypt and so many other nations and organizations which contribute to the success of international conferences dedicated to bringing new responses for water, promoting technical, administrative, financial, and above all, political situation. Every water security means, first of all, to give priority to the political nature of the decision to be taken for development and peace. No development without water, no peace without development, and no development without peace. It's under this double sign of development and peace for water that we invite all the participants in this Cairo Water Week to walk on the road to Dakar 2021 together and to bring the answers expected by all those who have been forgotten in the process of access to water. Thank you and full success to the Cairo Water Week.
إذن كانت هذه كلمة السيد لوي فونشون رئيس مجلس المياه العالمي.